What do you do, or do you have the sellers do prior to putting their home on the market? I know, Marcus, you talked about bringing the painters in or whatever, so just real quickly, kind of, what do you make them do, or do you provide the vendors to help them get that stuff done?
Again, systems, when I do a listing appointment, I leave and go to my office and I we have a PDF, you know me, I'm like this PDF checklist, editable sheet checklist person. So I create an editable PDF checklist where I check landscaping, pressure washing, blah, 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 blah. Here's their address, here's the commission, here's the hot buttons, the wife's the point of contact, all that stuff. Send it to my listing manager and my stager. I pay a stager to do a walkthrough and basically say, your furniture needs to be relocated to this spot, this needs to be painted, this light fixture needs to be changed out, all of those things, but she's kind of getting my point of view before she even goes out, so we're a team. My listing manager will typically go out at that appointment as well, so she can coordinate getting bids for everything. So we do a lot of flips for our clients. I mean, I feel like I'm in the flipping business, actually. I will then create a phone call or book a call to go over the quotes with my clients to kind of say, they're like, I'm not doing this, and then I can figure out with them, hey, absolutely, you need to do this. Or, you know what, just let that go, don't worry about it. So we have a call to kind of review that checklist because some things are absolute if they want to sell it. Some things we can let go. Some things could impact the price by 50 grand, and I will let them know that, hey, if you don't want to paint, that's okay. You're gonna have to price it about $50,000 lower than what we talked about in our consultation. So I'm very, very direct. The other thing is we have payment structure options. So we will pay for the improvements for the clients, and they will pay us back through credit cards, through my QuickBooks. So QuickBooks will send them an invoice because a lot of people don't have the cash to pay the contractors, but they have a credit card that they can put it on. Or we'll pay for it, we'll get them to sign a legal document that states they will pay us back upon closing or upon termination of the listing agreement. Obviously, I know that more than likely I would just lose that money. So it's a case-by-case decision, it's not black and white. But I do have a few payment options that I will do for clients for those
Great.
things.
One thing I was going to add that Brianna does really well is when we're in that listing consult, because we do a lot of buy-sells together, I know everybody does it differently, but usually I walk into the house and I'm like, this looks like crap, I'm like, this house is so ugly,
And I'm like, oh.
and I'm like we were in one yesterday, and I was like, oh sweet Jesus, this is
Tell
bad.
me what the lady said.
And the lady was
It's a 1.4.
they're very defensive, right? They're sensitive because their house is beautiful to them. They love that ugly brown that they painted. And so what is really important, this is something we were talking about, that I think when you're talking to a seller, she said she was talking to a bunch of people, and one agent said, so have you changed that brown color in the living room? She immediately was like, I don't like that agent, I don't want to work with her. Mm-hmm. So because she was defensive, right? So what Brianna's really good at is when she walks through the house, she's super positive, like, yep, but she does it, you almost deflect when they're like, what can I do? Brianna almost deflects, and she's like, listen, we're going to have the stager out here, she's wonderful.
I'm not the bearer of bad news.
She's not the bad guy, that's coming in, that's like, you need to paint this, you need to move this. So it's almost like she gets him on the hook. They're like, oh, I love Brianna. And then Marcy can kind of come in and be like, your house is ugly.
Someone like $150, $200 to be the bearer of bad news,
Yep.
And that, like when they ask me questions, like she said, I'm like, we'll figure it out. Like, we'll get the stager out here, we'll come up with a plan.
Yeah, we'll come up with a plan. So you almost just deflect. You want them excited to work with you. You don't want them to leave the consult feeling stressed and like really down about their house, So that was just
Good information. Marcos?
What's the average you're paying, like when you're flipping houses, like what's the average you'd say you're giving your client?
$7,500 to $10,000.
Okay. Marcos?
Well, I already touched up on it. On my side of this normally what I have done with the guys that have done this for me hundreds of times is they'll sign a legal document through the title company, they've already created it, and then it just gets deducted at the closing, whatever the fees are would get deducted out of it, And if the listing fails, then they'll have to pay it then, and I know it's kind of like a risky business there, but you make the, you can gauge it by meeting the client and knowing whether they're gonna let you hang it or not.
Right.
And again, in my word, that they trust you fully, and it's a lot of pressure, and so when you go in there and you look at that, see, I'm the one that would tell them, on that day, you gotta paint that wall, that this whole house needs to be painted, and sometimes it gets to where it gets in their feelings, so I'm blaming the stagers.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm adjusting.
Great, we're all gonna learn today.
Right, so
Maria?
for me, I do have a similar system as she does. I have, the checklist of like, when we go there, I give them, they already have a list of what is it that they have, how we recommend. Let me use the word recommend. That doesn't mean they're gonna do it. But what we recommend as far as like the way it looks outside, the yard, inside the house, and I do a walkthrough. I'm the one to blame, I don't have someone to blame. I do the walkthrough and I give recommendations. I never make them feel bad because I know that some people get very defensive, like they love this orange, they love the pink and all these tropical colors that I'm like, oh my God, I'm walking into like, I feel like I'm like in the 70s, all these colors. So I have to be very conscious of their feelings. So I do say, hey, this is what statistically, I thought you said, this is what most realtors, it helps sell faster. And I started, recommending colors and declutter. And I give them a list also of all that in detail. And also before the pictures, I do give them a list of how they need to stage the house, and I'll do the walkthrough and give them advice, so they could be prepared for the photographer. Also before showings, I have another PDF file. A lot of my clients, they want papers.
Yeah, no, we do the same thing,
So
checklist.
what to expect, what not to do, what to do, so that way they're fully prepared and they don't have any surprises, because people don't like surprises, and they'll be mad, like, why didn't you tell me this? Why did I not know? I explained to them how we have showing time, on how we have people that are gonna call you ahead of time, you have to confirm. So all that's important for them to know ahead of time information. Ahead of time is the most important when it comes to listings. And then as far as repairs, I have a list of contractors. A lot of my clients are contractors on the buyer side, so a lot of them become people I refer. And so I get quotes for them, I schedule all that for them, and if they wanna move forward, they go forward. And if not, I do the same thing case by case scenario, whether I lend them the money and then they pay at closing, so everything's different, every case is different. But,
Yeah.
April?
Kind of a different approach for people that I've worked with before, or a seller that I've never met with before. A lot of my clients that I've worked with before, they just send me a picture like, you're gonna make me paint this ugly pink wall, aren't you? They just kind of know, they've been through it before, so they know how neurotic I can be about certain things, and they have that expectation about me. So different process for them, they kind of know what to expect because they've seen the checklist before. Versus a new client, initially when I'm meeting with that client, very similar to Brianna, trying to stay very positive, but also still taking all the information in as they're walking me through the house, taking my video, and then after we get a signed listing agreement, I kind of deflect until we get a signed listing agreement, and that's when I pull together a plan for them. And then ultimately, similarly to Brianna, she blames the stager. I blame the buyers. This is what buyers are looking for. And when you can frame it in a way that this is what buyers are looking for, it kind of takes some of, because sellers are going to feel the way that they're going to feel, and you can't stop them from doing that when they, they're going to feel those things regardless, but it's helpful not to have them feel them towards you.
I think the key that we're all saying is that for sellers, you have to move them out of an emotional state
Yes.
into an analytical state.
Yep.
And that's a totally different approach from buyers. And so one of the scripts that I use is, listen, if I can make you an extra $50,000, and for every dollar that we recommend that you input into the house, I can make you a $200 to a 300% return on your investment. Is that something you're open to?
Did y'all write that down?
Yeah.
Every one of you, write that down.
And they always say yes.
Yeah, of course.
And you say, okay, so what do you have, like, have you considered a specific amount of money that you have set aside for improvements to your house to maximize what we can get for it? Again, so we can really push the price. And they usually say, no, I haven't thought about it. Well, that's when they start thinking about it. And that's kind of how I can determine, okay, if I can get them on the hook for 5, I may make up the 3 and get reimbursed at closing. If they're not willing to do anything, maybe I'm not willing to do anything,
Right.
you know? So again, it's a case by case, but I think the question is, if I can make you X amount return on your investment, are you open to it? And how much money do you have allocated to invest in your house to maximize the price?
Great.